This podcast is brought to you in part by Dragon Shield. Use code PLAYTOWIN5 at the affiliate link down below for 5% off to help support the show.
Welcome to the Play to Win podcast, where we talk about winning in cEDH. I'm Cam.
And I'm Dylan. This week we are talking about partners in cEDH, and we're ranking them with the ranking thing, the tier thing.
The actual tier list maker. That's right. After 2.5, 3 years, we're finally doing an actual tier list video, Dylan.
I didn't realize this was an actual thing. I mean, I know I've seen a lot of people use it. I didn't realize like tier maker that was a thing. I thought it was just like a screenshot people were grabbing and dragging along, but it's a thing.
It's a whole thing. I had to go in and manually input these cards.
Okay.
So that we could have them, so that I can click and drag these cards that you see on screen here. We got a whole new layout for this podcast because we got to show everything that we're looking at today. And you can see the list of commanders, these partners that we're going to talk about down here.
Now, these are all the partners that we have already kind of prejudged to be like D-ish or above. Any of the Fs we're not going to talk about. If we didn't talk about one of these partners, it's an F. That's what it is.
Well, we might still put more partners into the F category here.
I suppose. I think for me personally, I'll be honest with you, at a quick glance, I think all of these are Ds at least, because the ones that I mentioned that we actually take off before this podcast, those I thought were all Fs.
Well, why don't we go through what our tiers are going to be so that we can figure out what we're going to do. We have pretty standard tiers. I haven't gone anywhere overboard on these.
These look normal?
Yeah, typical S tier right at the top for your best of the best. Your A tiers are going to be partners that are super close to being the best, but there's something that just keeps them from being, top-notch partners that you want to get drawn to all the time. B tier partners are really good. Like there's a reason for you to be playing them, but there's definitely some clear things that they're missing with themselves. C's are okay. I feel like these are just okay. Like if you want to play them, you could do that, and I wouldn't begrudge you for doing that, but we're getting into that. Why aren't you playing some of those other partners territory? Right. And then D's are just like, these are pretty bad.
Yeah, these are for colors normally.
Yeah, a lot of the time, like you'll do it for colors, or maybe there's a combo piece that works with something else that's working in your deck. And then F's, I'm leaving F's as something that's available just in case we decide that we hate something so much it should go into F's.
For the most part, for me, F's are just not cEDH playable, and I use that term loosely. Anything cEDH playable if you want it to be, but like for me personally, there's just no real reason as of right now to ever play such a partner that I would put in F. So that's kind of where I'm. That's where I'm thinking.
Ravos is an example of a partner that we recently just cut from this list because there's no reason to play Ravos over the other options that you have, whereas there's an argument for all of these other cards. They've already seen cEDH play in some sort of form or fashion, so there's a reason for them to be on this list.
Yeah, Tymna is the other black-white partner commander besides Ravos, and Tymna is, we'll get to it in a little while, but probably the best partner in all of Commander, so there's really just no reason to ever play Ravos. Even if Ravos does something unique and interesting, Tymna is just that much better that there would be no reason, so we give Ravos an F. Start things off with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So if you don't see a partner that's on here, that's why. Also, I'm not including things that partner with, because that's just basically like,
that's its own thing. That's a different commander.
That's one deck, right? Like these partners can be mixed and matched into a bunch of different options. Also, no friends forever, even though that technically does mix and match.
It's not partner.
It's not partner.
Partner specifically has the mix and match ability. We're also not including the Doctor Who with Doctor's Companion, which although does have the mixing match, it can't mix and match with all of them like the Friends and Forever, so none of that one either.
Yeah, so I'm not focusing on any of the Doctor Who stuff.
Partner. The word partner is all that we're talking.
Exactly. Also, because like all the Doctor Who commanders would get Fs anyway, so
yeah.
We're taking them off. All right. So this list is in no particular order, so we're just going to start in the order that we have things here. And now because I'm using my laptop for this, I have to look up the cards on my phone to read them. Yeah, so don't think I'm being rude this whole time. I'm just trying to read. So Sidar, Kondo of Jamuraa is our first card. This is 2, a green and a white for a legendary human knight with flanking, which means that whenever a creature without flanking blocks this creature, the blocking creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Do you remember that?
No.
No, right? Yeah. And then creatures your opponents control without flying or reach can't block creatures with power 2 or less.
This one is probably as close to an F as possible, with maybe not being an F. And the only reason I would say that is because it's the only green-white partner commander that we have. So if you specifically need to add green and white to a partner that is only in one of the other colors, Sidar is your go-to. but I don't think I've ever seen a cEDH deck that I saw with Sidar and I go, yep, that's good.
I played against one once, and I got a turn 1 on the play Wheel of Fortune against this player.
Against them, okay.
Against them, yeah. And then they went, oh, okay, land Mana Crypt Archon of Emeria, and ended up doing pretty good. I don't think they won the game, but they were like really well suited after that point. Yeah,
I'm gonna give it an F. I think I just said that if it's we're not talking about it's an F. I think Sidar's an F, right?
An F,
at least right now in cEDH, and maybe I could give it an F plus because theoretically something could get printed at a later date that makes Rograkh Naya busted, and then Sidar is perfect. That doesn't exist right now.
No,
but such a future could exist, so it's an F plus. Like it has like potential.
Cards like Delny that we get that also have like a power 2 or less thing that are really strong kind of make it seem like maybe Sidar is going to have some upside in the future though, but the problem is that Sidar's got a combat based ability.
Is it everything that's 2 or less is unblockable? What is the evasion?
Creatures your opponents control without flying or reach can't block creatures with power 2 or less.
So your creatures are unblockable if they're 2 power or less, and if your opponents have no flying or reach creatures. So it's evasion.
It's kind of evasion.
It does like theoretically on paper work with Tymna, but like not really.
No, I think there's a lot better partner pairs for Tymna, especially if you are trying to build around 2 power creatures.
C- or F plus? We're already no. I'm not adding pluses or minuses. I'm gonna give it an F
because it's a tier list video. We can rank them within the tiers as well.
Okay.
I think Sidar Kondo's going to start in F, but maybe Sidar will stay towards the top of F because of the colors thing.
Yeah, because of what it could do. But even still, we should rank cards on what they do right now.
On what they're currently doing.
It's a firm F for me.
It's definitely an F. And now we're going to talk about Reyhan, last of the Abzan.
Starting with all the great ones.
Yeah, this is why you play partner, right? For these cards, this is 1 of black and a green for a 0/0 legendary human warrior that enters the battlefield with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever a creature you control dies or is put into the command zone, if it had 1 or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may put that many +1/+1 counters on target creature. What a good waste of time that was.
Yeah, this one is so strange because I feel like in a lot of ways it almost allows for some combo potential to happen, but like not quite. Like I feel like there should be something that you should be able to do with a Walking Ballista or Agatha's Soul Cauldron, but like really there's nothing that busted that I'm aware of that you really can do with that. So Reyhan is just like we were just talking about Sidar, except like Rograkh Jund is good. Like not, I don't know, good, but like can be good.
You can do things with that color combination.
You can do good things with that color combination. So for that reason, Reyhan is at least like playable theoretically, just because you need the black-green color options, and like having a 3-mana commander rather than Ikra, the 5-mana one that we'll probably talk about later, is like barely relevant. You know what I mean? Like not really, but like maybe.
There's a reason to go with Reyhan if you want to play Kraum in the command zone, don't care about your life total, and would rather have things that activate cards in your deck like Fierce Guardianship.
A little quicker, right?
Yeah, so that it's kind of like you're playing blue farm, but without white, and green instead, but you still get to play like all the cool reasons why you get to play Tymna,
right,
besides the card draw and attacking with creatures and stuff. Maybe you get to play Mox Ember in that deck now or something like that.
Really, the best thing that Reyhan ever will do, realistically, is add the colors black and green. That's really what it does. That's the only thing that it does. For that reason, it's a D, but it can do that. And the cEDH is so bizarre that like that's relevant enough.
I almost want to give it an F just because there is another commander in its colors that typically sees more play that I almost always would rather go
Ikra,
to.
Yeah, I feel like that used to be the case. Lately, I don't think that's the case anymore. I haven't seen a lot of Ikra at all anymore, and I have seen a little bit more Reyhan. I think that's mainly because of it just being 2 mana cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to get it out. My thing is that, like, if I'm pairing Rograkh with a black-green commander, I already have a commander that can get out super early and turn on all of my other stuff. If I'm doing stuff with my life total, which I probably am because I'm in Jund, so I'm probably playing Ad Nauseam Bolas to Citadel, I probably want the ability to have longer game life gain.
The life gain from Ikra can be relevant if you're in an Ad Nauseam or a Necro deck. In my experience, not relevant enough most of the time. 5 mana to play a sorcery speed thing, pass a turn, hope to untap, be able to connect, and then gain the life to do so. That's just too many steps.
Well, technically, the turn that you cast Ikra, you can get in with Rograkh at someone and gain 1.
It's not a combat damage. It's an attack trigger.
Has to deal damage.
I think it still has to deal the damage, I think. I think so.
Okay, yeah, never mind.
Yeah. Should we say what Ikra does since we're talking about them both?
Let's place.
For me, I'm going to give Reyhan a D. That's my slot. I think it's a D.
I want to give Reyhan an F, but I'll give him a D for now. But maybe we'll keep him towards the bottom of D.
If I was at a tournament and I saw Rograkh Reyhan, I wouldn't think this isn't a deck. I would think, okay, this is Turbo Jun, sure.
Yeah,
If it was Sidar, I would go, what's going on? I don't know about this. You know what I mean?
No, I think that makes sense. Okay, well, let's talk about Ikra then. Ikra is a 3 colorless, a black and a green 3/7 legendary snake wizard with menace. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, yeah, you're right, it is combat damage, yeah, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness.
You had a deck with Bruise and Ikra for a while that gained a ton of life, and the goal was to gain a ton of life and cast a big ad nauseum. I think you lost like 10 games with it before you took it apart.
If I could put that deck in this tier list, it would go in the F tier for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Ikra kind of suffers the same thing as Reyhan does, or not suffers, benefits from, is just sometimes adding black and green is worth it. And since there's no good black or green partner commander, Ikra or Reyhan get picked from time to time. I don't think either of them are ever relevant, but 3 is less than 5. So Reyhan I like more.
I think the biggest problem with the black-green partners is that there are other partners that share their colors that also give you access to like other color combinations
and
that you
card
want.
draw advantage.
You can still make like Thrasios Tymna out of Ikra and Ishai, I guess.
Sure,
but, like, that's way worse than the other parents. Like
right.
you just end up not really in the most ideal optimal spot.
We have figured out that partners with card advantage is the good part. That's what's good. It's not necessarily card advantage, but advantage. And Ikra doesn't realistically offer advantage. The life gain, you could twist your brain to feel like the life gain specifically with ad nauseum and necropons is advantage, and it kind of is, but it's just too slow. If Ikra was 1 mana and did that, and then starting on turn 1, you can gain a quick 6 life, then yes, we're talking. You know what I mean? But it's not. It's 5 mana. You have to waste all of your ritual mana on it, and then you could have been saving a ritual mana on a win condition or something. I still think it's a D for me, and I think I like Reyhan more, mainly because there's something with Agatha Soul Cauldron I feel like that you can do with Reyhan that's kind of interesting.
Putting Ranger Captain Avios like under Agatha Soul Cauldron, and now your commander can be Ranger Captain. Like there's just a lot of utility it can have.
I guess if you were to have a Ranger Captain, you could put the counter on another one of your creatures, and then Reyhan still has a +1/+1 counter separately, so now you have 2 creatures that can do the activated ability that Agatha Soul Cauldron allows.
That's not bad.
That's not nothing. And yeah, just for the 3 mana, I'm going to say Reyhan is higher if we were allowed to rank them, but I still think Ikra is a tier D for me.
Oh, man. Okay, coming into this, I probably would have put Ikra in D tier as well, but over Reyhan. But I hate saying these words, but I think they ring true. Without Jeweled Lotus, I don't want to play Ikra.
Yeah. It does lose a lot.
I'm back on a tally, so I really don't care that Jeweled Lotus is not in the format, but a big part of Ikra was that there was the deck Kraum Ikra, and you could play this green Grixis-based strategy that had a really good way to stay in the game if you got targeted by the attacking decks. If your ad nauseum plan didn't end up working well, you could play Kraum, get card advantage, and then slam Ikra, and then get your life back up already, because you have Kraum in the command zone that's going to gain you 4 life.
Losing the Jewel Lotus and the Mana Crypt, for those in particular, I think matters a little bit more than others. Other cards, you gain the card advantage, like a Tali. Yes, it stinks you can't get a Tali out as fast, but you gain the card advantage immediately from it.
Yeah, you get 4 cards from a Tali, whereas Ikra comes in and you go, okay, maybe I'll gain life, but maybe you'll block life now. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 Ds for me.
Double Ds to start the show off. That sounds great. All right, why don't we talk about a good
I love this idea.
commander then, because there's a reason why people play partners, and we should talk about that. Let's talk about Tymna the Weaver.
I already mentioned the best commander in the set. What does Tymna do?
Tymna is a one
in the format.
We did a set review in March, and we did a set review in February.
A lot of sets coming out.
Yeah, so I'm not surprised that we're just calling shit sets. So Tymna is a black and a white for a 2/2 legendary human with lifelink, and whenever you deal combat damage to a player... Now, let me do this the right way. I thought I could do this and be cocky, but it's not worded like that.
It's worded weird.
At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards.
Right.
I like how I've been calling things Tymna wordings for stuff like Professional Facebreaker and Grim Hireling for years.
But it's really not.
It's completely different.
Tymna's kind of its own thing. It is tied to damage, but it's not like a trigger on combat damage. It's
Right,
a trigger
yeah.
on second main phase after.
Those treasure-making cards that I talked about, if you remove them after damage is dealt, they'll still get the treasures. But Tymna, if you remove Tymna on the damage step, then Tymna's trigger won't happen when you go to second main.
Realistically, Tymna just draws 1 to 3 cards a turn. Normally, closer to 1 I have found. 2 is kind of common, 3 is very rare. Tymna's rate is realistically not that good. Tymna never sees play in the 99. Tymna itself is not a great card on its own, but what Tymna is good at is being a commander. Tymna allows you to play 4 colors in your command zone, while one of your commanders is only 3 mana, which is pretty cheap, and is backup card advantage. Tymna is rarely the main strategy. You're not building around Tymna. Tymna's there to like clean up the scraps in most decks of just like, Tymna ties all this shit together. Tymna allows me to make sure I can hit my land drop, make sure that I can hold up interaction, make sure that I can keep playing the game, and being able to have card draw that doesn't cost you cards in the beginning is just so broken. But it is interesting that like it's really not a great card on its own. It's great because it's always in your command zone. It gives you access to 4 colors and it's 3 mana.
And it triggers off of something that you want to be doing in Magic anyway. Like it's giving you a benefit for just playing the game, and you don't have to build your deck in a certain way. Like there's cards that you can play because Tymna's in your command zone that you just go, oh, it's a Tymna attacker, so it's something that I want. But you don't have to do that even. Like you can just play the good creatures that you want to play in your Tymna deck, and naturally you'll still be able to draw a bunch.
Right, yeah, I'm playing Tymna Thrasios. We both have been for a while. There's no like specific Tymna attackers, although now Voice of Victory makes great Tymna attackers and is kind of perfect for that deck.
But again, that's just like kind of incidental.
It's just incidental. No, there's nothing else that particularly attacks well in that deck. It's just Mana Dorks, Thrasios can get through. It's a 1/3, so it gets through 1/1s. Like that's, like you said, like it just rewards you for playing Magic and progressing the board. And the fact that your card draw doesn't soak up cards in your hand, you know what I mean? So normally if you play a Rhystic Study, you go down from 7 to 6 cards to waste on the Rhystic Study. So if it gets countered, you're still down at 6 cards. But with Tymna and Thrasios, you have 7 cards. You play Tymna, you still have 7 cards. If they counter it, you didn't lose a card, and they did. That's great. You know what I mean? So Tymna is obviously an S tier. It's the best commander in the format. I don't think you can do much better.
It will be really hard to tap Tymna, at least, because of everything that we said. It's just like free value after she gets into play. You don't have to build your deck a weird way like a lot of commanders kind of want you to. She's good colors that she adds to your partner deck as well, too. Like black and green is not 2 colors that I always want. I'm really only interested in one of them. White and green, I don't want that color combination in my deck like almost at all. But like giving me access to the silence colors and the tutor colors like really ties a lot of missing pieces together in a lot of decks.
Yeah, and I think we also have to talk about 2 other commanders while we're talking about Tymna. We don't have to like rank them right now, but like Thrasios and Kraum, that triangle, there's a reason why Thrasios Tymna and Thrasios Kraum are the best decks, and it's because this triangle of them works really well together. Like you said, like I don't want green-white, but you could want green-white, but you get green-white from Thrasios Tymna. You know what I mean? So like you don't need a green-white partner because this particular triangle allows you to go Kraum Tymna or Tymna Thrasios, and those are both arguably like the best decks in the format. I would say 2 of 5 best decks in the format.
I would fully agree with
that.
Like, yeah.
Tymna is good because Tymna is good, but Tymna is good because Tymna works well with Thrasios being 4 colors, with Kraum being 4 colors, and all those other stuff.
It's
right?
the smattering of.
It's got good triangle corners.
Good triangle corners that let you go into great sans color combinations.
Yeah, great 4 color combos.
Because all 3 of those commanders are card advantage engines, and that's why.
Yeah, so with Tymna, with either one, you get 2 sources of card advantage in your command zone. Yeah, exactly.
I know we're doing a lot of like foreshadowing for a bunch of other partners that we're going to talk about, but it's kind of impossible to talk about partners without talking about like what you would pair them with. So if you're confused as to what Thrasios is,
you know
don't
what
worry,
Thrasios
we'll
is.
get around to them.
Yeah, you kind of have to. They don't exist in a vacuum of each other. They exist because of how well they work with other stuff. So we kind of have to talk about the other ones.
Yeah,
with them,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about partner pairings today because we would be here for 6 hours and we have shit to do. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Vial Smasher the Fierce.
Okay.
Let's talk about Vial Smasher. So Vial Smasher is 1 a black and a red for a legendary goblin
shaman.
That's what I thought.
I want to say shaman.
Vial.
Or maybe it's like a berserker or something. No, I feel like it's a shaman.
Whoa, goblin berserker.
It was berserker.
Yeah,
okay,
that's
cool.
wild. Okay, cool. So Vial Smasher's a 2/3, and whenever you cast your first spell each turn, choose an opponent at random. Vial Smasher deals damage equal to that that spell's mana value to that player or planeswalker that player controls. Man, if it was 2020, I would have a much higher rating for this card.
Yeah, it's so funny that like 5 years ago, Vial Smasher was thought of as like one of the premier partners because you could pair it with like a Curiosity effect, and Thrasios Vial Smasher was a 4-color pairing that you could throw a Curiosity on Vial Smasher, and then it turns all of your instant speed interaction into cantrips, which can be pretty good.
Especially at a time when it was undisputed that white was the worst color in Commander. This is pre-Esper Sentinel, pre-white gets any sort of card draw. Like, you got Silence, you got Grand Abolisher,
Enlightened Tutor, and that was it.
And that was it. Smothering Tithe in some decks too, yeah. But otherwise, like, Tymna was the only reason to play white.
And Tymna was a very good reason why to play Vial Smasher too, because having a 2/3 in your command zone that could block the Tymna was actually relevant. If you could hold off some of that Tymna blocks in the early game, that would help you push into the late game. The meta was kind of like small like that, like where just being able to block Tymna in your command zone was pretty good.
And this worked out because even though like the format was really fast with like Flash Hulk being a deck that you could play, there were still a lot of times where people were just like, kind of like now, holding up their wins in their hands, waiting for the safe opportunity to try to win. And the deck Curiosity Control had more time to be able to deploy Vial Smasher and get a Curiosity or Keen Sense on there, and then like play a dig through time or something on someone's end step when they didn't do anything and just randomly get 8 damage at someone.
Nowadays, Vial Smasher has been more delegated to partners for Malcolm, which is another partner that we'll talk about in a little while. But that particular pairing allows you to have a 1-card win condition in Grixis. Well, I mean, this is, again, we can't really talk about Vial Smasher without talking about Malcolm right now, because the premier Vial Smasher deck right now pairs with Malcolm, which is a card that combos with Glinthorn Buccaneer, which is a red card, and you need red to go in your Malcolm deck, and adding red-black to your blue combo deck is really good.
Which means that way you also get like tutors to help you find Glinthorn Buccaneer.
Exactly.
So it's a really nice color combination for that.
And nowadays, I think that version, that Vial Smasher deck is the most popular Vial Smasher deck, but I do think Vial Smasher Thrasios is still a deck. I see it from time to time. It's still around.
It does some wild things now. Yeah. It's really cool.
There's a lot more options with what it can do. I don't see the Curiosity thing quite as much. I do see some Birthing Pod lines and also just some like, what if Blue Farm had green instead of white lines? That is kind of what the deck is doing nowadays, at least from what I'm seeing.
It's the better way to go, Ikra. If you wanted to do like Ikra Kraum or something like that, do Thrasios Vial Smasher instead.
Yes. If you want to do green Grixis, I think Thrasios Vial Smasher is the way to do that rather than Ikra Kraum. Nowadays, losing Mana Crypt and stuff, you want to do the little ones.
So between Thrasios and Malcolm being good, where do you want to throw Vial Smasher? Is Vial Smasher B tier?
Realistically, Vial Smasher is only there for colors. And to me, that's a C tier commander. It's really just there for colors. That's all it does. Nowadays,
yeah, I think that's fair.
Even the decks that do play Vial Smasher are not casting it. You'll ask most of them and they'll say, if I'm casting Vial Smasher, something has gone wrong. It's really just there for colors. Nowadays, so even though red-black is just like a good color combination to want to staple onto things, it's just because it's red-black mostly now. So I would say Vial Smasher is a C tier, which is kind of crazy because Tymna Vial Smasher was once like a very, very good deck, I think.
I feel like we'll get to some other commanders that people would rather play in the decks that they want to add red to.
Thrasios Vial Smasher. I just said Tymna Vial Smasher. You meant
Thrasios Vial Smasher.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think we're going to get to some other commanders that people would rather play instead of Vial Smasher for when they want to add red, and they're actually willing to forego adding black to their deck because of it.
Or take black from another source. Some of the mono red partners, all of them, bizarrely busted for some reason and are only held back by them only being mono red. I think they're all like really good. So yeah, we'll get to them when we get to them.
All right, so Vial Smasher, all right, I'll put in C tier for now, and it will just be the only C tier commander that we have for right now. As we move on to our next partner, Yoshimaru.
Yeah.
Ever Faithful. This is 1 white mana for a 1/1 legendary dog that says whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Yoshimaru Ever Faithful. I gotta tell you, Dylan, I've heard a lot of hype around Thrasios Yoshimaru, and I feel like I just haven't seen it in the wild enough.
I've never played against this deck. I have heard people tell me that it's a decent deck. I think it's neat that your white commander is kind of like a Rograkh, that it's just like a cheap commander that will sometimes get a little bit big, but I think from what I've heard mostly there, it's just kind of to enable some quicker starts.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I really like that direction, if I'm being honest. I know I'm immediately firing into the negatives on the cutest dog on a Magic card, probably ever.
Yeah.
However, I already have a cheap commander in Thrasios that way, and it's hard for me to want to shave on Tymna and all
Right.
of the good things that black gives me access to.
And that's what we'll compare a lot of the times. Is this deck doing something better than what Tymna Thrasios or Tymna Kraum can do? A lot of the times, the partner matchups are just going to be that. Like, yes, these partners are okay, but realistically, they're not busted. Thrasios isn't Kinnan level powerful. Thrasios sees more play because Thrasios can be paired with a lot of different things. But Kinnan is a more powerful card, so there's only so much, I don't know, like, I guess, like, wiggle room. Like, how much can you shave just for colors? Like, why not just play 4 colors? Why not take advantage of what Partners is offering you, which is 4 colors and advantage on both pieces, right?
Exactly, yeah. Whereas, and I totally get what you're saying. If you're not playing Partners, there's a billion reasons why you're in that color combination then to do your strategy. But like, when it comes to Partners, you start to like really have to explain yourself when it comes to like, oh, I'm playing Yoshimaru Rograkh, which is also something that we've seen. And Richard from MTG Goldfish kicked our ass with that deck on the channel.
Yeah, it can happen for sure.
It can happen, right? But like, you start to get to a point where like, yeah, you can win 10% of your games,
Right.
but like, do you really want to win 10% of your games?
Yeah.
Like, isn't it more fun to win 25% of your games? Like, have that be your goal? So
yeah, I think Yoshimaru is unfortunately a D tier. I could be very wrong about that. I think it's worse than Vial Smasher, but I think it's probably better than Reyhan and Ikra, just by being 1 mana is very strong.
See, weirdly enough, I would put Yoshimaru underneath both of the green-black commanders because having access to only 1 color, like that also shaves off 50% of a good reason to play a partner.
I guess maybe you're right. I think I would question a Yoshimaru deck slightly more in a tournament than I would a Reyhan deck. But Ikra, Yoshimaru might be better than Ikra, though.
Let me say this too, though, because there's exceptions to the thing that I said, because there's other 1-color partners that do a lot more for your deck. I think just being like a cheap 1-color partner that still costs mana is not a direction that I want to go.
0 is so much less than 1. Like, realistically, that's what Yoshimaru is to me. The closest comparison is Rograkh. It's just cheap. It's just a very inexpensive commander. Rograkh is free. Free is so much different than 1. It feels like it's just 1 off. No, it's like 100% off. It's not. It's so much different.
Also, white and green don't give you good sacrifice things either. Like, Eldritch Evolution is bad when you sacrifice a 1-mana thing.
Jeska's Will is really powerful. The white Akroma's Will, not that good in CEDH.
Yeah.
Deflecting Swat, really powerful. The white
Defensive
one,
maneuvers.
who gives a shit? Not good. So
I don't
like
that.
Also what red offers for having the cheap commander is better than what white offers.
And Yoshimaru's +1/+1 counter ability is not good enough to justify it either.
I mentioned about Reyhan, the Agatha Soul Cauldron. I guess I could mention it here for the same thing. It does work better with Ranger Captain of Eos.
Because you're already in Ranger Captain colors. You don't have to have someone fail a win attempt.
But I still think it makes sense to put it between Reyhan and Ikra here in the D tier.
All right, I'm okay with the sandwich there, too.
Which is still not an F. Still CDH.
Yeah.
I get it. You know what I mean? I just don't want it.
That's why I'm playing Thrasios Tymna right now.
Right, because Tymna's good.
Because Tymna's good. Why don't we, I'm skipping ahead. Why don't we talk about Thrasios? Because we've talked about Thrasios a lot already. And if we're going to continue to reference Thrasios, I would like to get Thrasios checked off.
That's a good idea.
Thrasios is a blue and a green 1/3 legendary merfolk wizard, and for 4 mana you can look at the top card of your library and you may reveal it and put it in your hand. If you don't, put it on the bottom and then reveal the next card and put that in your hand. If it's a land, put it into play tapped.
Yeah, you draw it. You specifically draw it.
It's not Nadu.
It's not Nadu.
Specifically draw.
Which is very relevant against Orcish Bowmaster and I guess Sheoldred and other things that care about a draw effect.
It's relevant against Orcish Bowmaster until you're ready to win the game.
Until you're ready to win the game. This is something that we've done a couple times where I will put a bunch of Thrasios activations on the stack, and each time there's a damage dealt at me because I've drawn 1 card, okay, I will respond to that with a Thrasios activation. I'll activate Thrasios with my infinite mana that I get to, which is why Thrasios is so good, because if you are able to make infinite mana, you can pump that all into Thrasios, and then every damage that you are dealt with Orcish Bowmaster, you can just respond and draw a card, and the card is in your hand, which means you can activate again and respond. So you can have a situation where there are 500 Orcish Bowmaster triggers targeting you, and you have your whole deck in your hand, and you can continue to hold priority on wait on all of them and respond with a Valley Flood Caller, with a Born Upon a Win, and still win over top. So in the end of the game, Bowmaster is not really that powerful against Thrasios, but it can still be relevant against your green mana dork, try to draw a bunch of cards deck.
That's
like,
the thing.
good.
It's good against the general strategy that Thrasios is trying to employ, which is make as much mana as you can, especially when you're also pairing that with Tymna and you're like, oh, hey, I kind of want to play, more mana dorks now, too. I don't know why you have that voice.
Pairing Thrasios with Tymna is one of the main things why it's so good is turn 1 Thrasios off of Chromox or something into turn 2 Tymna can be a fine start, and it's a particularly great way to pill yourself out of mulligans. When you mulligan low in your singleton format and you just find your 2 or 3 cards that you need in a couple lands, well, okay, at least I have these free cards that are over here that can draw me cards, and I can keep the good cards that I need and then use my card advantage to draw the rest of my stuff back in the game.
Especially because then turn 3, you play your next land. Now you can hold up your interaction that keeps you alive and hold up a Thrasios interaction.
Right.
Activation. Just in case no one does anything then, too. So, like, they start to synergize really well. You get to pile up a ton of cards. Right now, the 4 best colors in the format, in my opinion. I have white solidly higher than red at this point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's true. Especially because we just lost Dockside Extortionist. That was one of the real main pulls for red. And red still has other strong things, but I think white overall has become a much more robust color in the past few years. Especially like now, like Smothering Tithe, Esper Sentinel, Ranger Captain, Grand Abolisher. These are some of the best cards in the format.
Voice of Victory. Let's
Voice
add
of Victory is a new one
too. Yeah.
Like Silence. Like all of these cards are some of the strongest cards in the format. Whereas red, you have some complementary things. You do. You have a couple extra things that are nice. But white has like real pull. White, the silence effects are real pull. Deflecting Swat isn't pull. It's a bonus. It's all great. I have Deflecting Swat too. Okay.
It's just Underworld Breach right now.
Right.
That's a red pull for me.
And even still, like I feel like I have seen Breach a lot less recently.
Oh yeah.
Like a lot less somehow. But yeah, so Thrasios is good. It's just 2 mana. That's the main reason it's good. For the same thing as Tymna, it allows you to be in 4 colors if you need to be, up to 4 colors, which is also really good. It's an infinite mana outlet, which we mentioned, that I want to make sure we mention again.
We should reiterate that. This 2-color partner wins you the game in a way that no other 2-color partner can.
With infinite colorless mana, that's specifically relevant.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Being able to do it off of infinite green mana or infinite blue mana or infinite colorless mana or any of that. Kenrith, you need the infinite blue mana to draw your deck or something. You need to have specific colors, but this you can get away with a bunch of different stuff.
It's so good that Kinnan plays it in the 99 to go through its deck 1 card at a time.
And then Seedborn Muse is another one. You can't really talk about Thrasios without Seedborn Muse. Seedborn Muse is like the ad nauseum for the Thrasios decks in that if you can resolve it and untap with it a few times, you probably should win the game, mainly because Thrasios just allows you to use all that extra mana where like a lot of other commanders don't allow you to use that. So those two I think are a perfect pair, especially Tymna Thrasios being so good because Eldritch Evolution can turn your Tymna into a Seedborn Muse. Another reason why all of these things just like work together.
So I totally want to put Thrasios in S tier.
S tier, of course, yeah.
But I think it's still going to go under Tymna because Tymna is just more flexible in terms of what you can pair Tymna with. Like Thrasios can get paired with like Dargo, but how good's that now?
We didn't even really talk about Rograkh getting paired with Thrasios, which is like a more upcoming deck recently that has been putting in a lot of work. It can also be paired with Tevish Side, which is another one, but those are 3-color pairs that are seeing a little bit more play. We're not like 2 dominant 4-color pairing decks. You know what I mean? Thrasios doesn't pair with another 2-color commander to give you 2 options of 4-color. It used to with Bruise a little bit when Dockside was a little bit more relevant, but none of the Boros commanders give you any advantage. So the triangle is a triangle, not a square.
It feels like you have one commander at that point. Yeah,
right. Yeah, exactly. So normally when you're pairing Thrasios with another card that's a real card, you're limited to 3 colors, which is different than Tymna, which has access to go into 2 different 4-color pairings.
While also being able to go into a 2-color pairing or a 3-color pairing if you want to get the advantage out of one of the other 1-color partners. I keep saying the wrong number of colors for everything. Oh my god.
But I do think that Tymna is a little bit better than Thrasios, but they're right there. They're the 2 strongest commanders in the format.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, okay. All right, so our next one then is Silas.
Silas is also just a color commander.
Basically, yeah. It's 1 a blue and a black for a 2/2 human legendary artifact creature with Death Touch. And when it deals combat damage to a player, choose target artifact card in your graveyard and you may cast that card this turn.
Never comes up. It's in theory, you're like, oh, Lotus Petal. I can get a Lotus Petal back. That's nice. Or I can use it with my Mount Doom. I can sacrifice it with Mount Doom or something. That's nice. It can turn my Mox Opal on because it's an artifact. None of that stuff ever comes up. In the decks that want to play Silas, they're just playing Silas because Rograkh with Silas is really busted, or maybe Krark with Silas is really busted. Just Grixis is really good.
The red partners are a good thing to pair with Silas, but you never cast Silas in those decks.
Yeah, and when you do, it's always bad. The best thing that it does, in my experience, is that it's a Death Touch blocker. and it can kind of make some people scared of throwing all of their stuff at you all the time.
And that's bad.
And that's bad. If you're in that spot, if you're in the spot where now your opponents have the option to attack you, that means you've waited too long, either because of something you did or just like the game didn't allow you to go off early like you wanted to, and it just like tries to hold you in. Silas is not good. It's probably
C tier, right? Because it's above Vial Smasher.
I think it's above Vial Smasher just because the red partners are better. So the pairings that you get to get it to Grixis are better.
Even off of that, just the color pair that you get off of Silas, I think is way better than the color pair that you get off of Vial Smasher.
Yeah.
It just makes what you can partner Silas with just like way weirder.
Yeah, is Malcolm better than Rograkh and Krark? I don't think so.
Should I play Silas Sidar instead of Thrasios Tymna?
Definitely not.
But Sidar makes Silas unblockable.
Yeah, that's true. I think, yes, Silas is of C tier. It's really there for the colors. That's all it does. So, yeah, C tier.
Let's talk about another one that's there for the colors, which is Tana, the Bloodsower.
An old favorite of mine.
An old favorite of yours. Yeah, 2, a red and a green for a 2/2 elf druid with trample. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you create that many 1/1 green Saproline tokens.
Yeah, once upon a time, this was decent in Tymna Tana, a blood pod deck that would allow you to grind value over time. And really, it was there for the colors, but being able to slowly accumulate some 1/1 Saplings was pretty good. Sometimes.
There's some additional value where, like, you could use Birthing Pod to sacrifice Tana to get like your Kiki Jiki or your Karmic Guide and like get some stuff started off. We didn't really talk about that with like Tymna and Thrasios, where like you can Eldritch Evolution them into other things that you want more better.
Because they're so cheap,
Exactly, yeah. So like that's something else that you could do with Tana, but it has the same kind of Silas problem where it limits who you can partner with because of its color combination that it's in. Like, there's only one good commander that you can, because to fill in the other gaps for colors, you're playing a bad partner so that you can get another bad partner.
Right, yeah, you either pair it with Kraum, and then you're only in 3 colors, and both of your commanders are 4 and 5 mana, and that kind of stinks. You pair it with Tymna, which I think is its best option. It allows you to be in Sans Blue. It allows you to play all the best creatures and all that stuff, and I do think that deck still can be great, but Tana doesn't serve a major role in that deck. Tana is just kind of there for colors and allows you to be in Sans Blue Tymna deck. And then the other option would be like a Thrasios, and Thrasios Tana just doesn't really make any sense because you would just play Rograkh or Krark or some other red card for the pairing
There
of 3
used
colors.
to be Temur Pirates decks that would pair it with Malcolm, and you could play Malcolm Tana, which was pretty cool because that gave you another out to have Malcolm and Glinthorn Buccaneer as the 2-card combo in your deck. And it was like another way to be really fast and take advantage of the green creature tutors. So like that actually had a reason to play Tana and like have a good reason to be in green.
And I think that deck is still not that bad, especially with the new tutor, Nature's Rhythm, like is another great include for that deck. So yeah, if you want to do the Temur Pirates rather than the Grixis Pirates, green is pretty good when it comes to black as far as tutors. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So where do we throw? Is Tana C tier then too?
I would
like
say
she's
C
in the
tier.
same bit. Where is she in C tier?
I think behind Vial Smasher.
Behind Vial
but
Smasher,
only because
here?
Malcolm Vial Smasher is better
Is way
right now.
better right now. Probably always has been. It just wasn't as popular as Temur was for a short time.
Yeah, that might be true. Yeah,
I think that's
solid
fair,
C tier.
She's colors only, so that's C tier. Let's talk about Tormod the Desecrator. This is a 3 and a black for a 4/2 legendary zombie wizard that says whenever one or more cards leaves your graveyard, you create a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. We were just talking about this card because there's that Sultai commander from the Tarkir set that does
the same
this.
thing. Yeah. So this allows you to, with Phyrexian Altar and Gravecrawler, you can create billions of 2/2s back and forth, and then you can sack all of those 2/2s to make billions of mana, which you can dump into with Thrasios. If you wanted to play Sultai with Tormod, I've never really seen that done. If you want to play Sultai mid-range with Thrasios, I think Teversat is just a better include. You don't need the extra combo. You just want more card advantage in the command zone, so Teversat would normally be picked over this. So yeah, I think Tormod is probably an F.
Woo, I just realized that when I did my search, I only searched for creatures and not planeswalkers.
Which means that Teversat and Jeska isn't in here.
They're not going to be on here.
Can we add them?
Yeah.
Because we'll have to.
Presentation mode. We're back. Okay.
Should we talk about another partner?
Let's talk about Jeska, because now Jeska came up. So Jeska is our first planeswalker commander here. Jeska is 2 and a red for a 0 loyalty planeswalker, but actually enters with loyalty counters on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. For 0 loyalty, you can choose a creature, and until your next turn, if that creature will deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. And for -X, Jeska deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets.
Jeska, this one saw, I think, a lot more play in the beginning when it first came out. It was kind of like an automatic. It made perfect sense in like the Mad Farm decks at the time that were winning with Ashiok Salvagers.
Auriok Salvagers
and Lion's Eye Diamond. It makes perfect sense as an infinite mana outlet. It also allows you to make your Ishai, your big giant bird, attack for way a lot more. If you have a commander that can hit for a whole bunch, it can also be a mini Wrath and destroy the board. Lately, I haven't seen it quite as much.
No, me neither. I think that the Dockside ban might have had something to do with that too, because there were a lot of like Dockside loops that you could end up doing to end up winning the game through Jeska. Cast Jeska, minus Jeska to target players, and then recast her with your infinite mana just over and over. Man, years ago I probably would have put her in B tier because
I still think she's probably around B tier.
You still think she's probably, because I mean, she does something really good. Like any deck that plays any number of creatures is going to be completely fucked over by her.
She does something. Everything in C tier doesn't do anything. It's just there for colors.
True. She does something.
She is an outlet. She does remove creatures. Those things aren't quite as good. Thrasios being an outlet is good because it's also an advantage engine in the early parts of the game, whereas Jeska really isn't. Now, Jeska is removal, which is something else, but removal is also, in cEDH, is just not that great. Even if you are killing 3 things, I would just rather push myself towards a win than stop them. I mean, having the removal when you need to get rid of a stacks piece is great, but I would also always rather somebody else get rid of it instead of me, and me be able to ignore that thing. So,
just like win around the stacks piece or something.
So like what it does is good, or rather, it does what it does well. What it does is just not great. Does that make sense?
I'm not looking for a 3-mana Pyroclasm a lot in cEDH. I'm not looking for, 5 mana to deal 3 damage to different things. If I'm doing that, I'm probably not in a good spot, or I just hate Magda.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do think it's B. It does do something. There's a reason to play it, but
not much, especially when we have a lot of other red partners like Rograkh that we could play
way
instead.
More busted, yeah.
Rograkh is a 0-mana 0/1 that's a Kobold warrior with First Strike, Menace, and Trample.
Yeah.
None of that matters. It's just a 0-mana thing that you can sacrifice to cards like Colleen the Weak because you paired them with Silas, or
Guy's Cradle. Makes your Guy's Cradle turn on way earlier in the Thrasios decks. I don't know if Rograkh is an A tier or an S tier commander. Realistically, it is busted. Having access to a free commander is just insanely good, but I would argue that the Thrasios Rograkh and the Rograkh Silas decks are not the best decks in the format right now. There is an argument that Rog Thras is inching up in popularity and maybe could be and would be soon, but I don't think that's where we're at exactly right now. But it's one of them. It's certainly one of the best decks in the format.
I wouldn't blame anyone for putting Rograkh in either S or A tier, because I do feel like it has taken a hit. At least the turbo side of Rograkh Silas is taking a hit, but as that goes down, the scale starts to balance as Rog Thras starts to go up, especially as we get a lot of cooler tools for that deck, like Enduring Vitality is in there because it works so well with Song of Totentaz, and it works so well with Valley Floodcaller, which also works so well with Kinnan and Earthcraft. It's such a synergy-based big mana deck that, part of me thinks that I still want to put it in S tier?
I mean, only so many things can be the best of the best. S tier is the best of the best.
Yeah, I think we can have 3 to 4 things in the best of the best.
Best of the best. All right. So you think Rograkh's an S tier?
I think Rograkh is an S tier.
I'm currently taking apart. Well, I'm switching out Rograkh for Krark in my Silas Grixis deck right now, so I'm a little bit lower on Rograkh. People know where the interaction points are with that deck a lot. They know how to stop the Rograkh a lot more. It's much more difficult to stop the Krark. I personally want to give it an A. What do we do?
I think we just end the podcast here because we can't agree. Yeah, I think Play to Win's just dissolve.
I could understand giving it an S if we give it on the low.
Let's go high A. I'm fine going high A because I did say I can't blame anyone for wanting to put it in A. So I'm
not really sure what else would really be in A if not something like Rograkh. Do you know what I mean? Everything else to me looks like B or S that I'm glancing at down here. I guess there's not true. Some of them we're about to talk about. I'll tell
you who I want to put in A. Kraum Ludevic Opus.
Not an S.
No, not an S.
Interesting. Okay.
I think I'm still a little bit lower on Blue Farm right now, or I guess Tymna Kraum as a color combination right now, because it's just Esper with extra steps, I guess. And Kraum isn't guaranteed cards. Thrasios and Tymna are both things that you can control on your own in order to make sure that you're consistently drawing cards because your deck's built that way.
Yeah. Or
just we said, Tymna, you're just incidentally good. Kraum, people have to actively be feeding and be aware that it's something that they're doing. And people will go, I don't want to feed Kraum. Yeah. And the game's stalled enough where it could just be a 5-mana 4/4 flying haste.
Right. Yeah. I think the main thing realistically, and maybe this is a reason why it should be an A is that Kraum gives you red to your Esper decks. It allows your Esper decks to win quickly or win when they want to with an Underworld Breach. That's what it does. It ties together your win conditions. Whereas Esper, historically, I have found Esper to be a little bit more difficult to win quickly or out of nowhere. You have a ton of great wins. You definitely do. But red gives you the Underworld Breach to tie it all together. So I guess I could see Kraum being an A tier. That doesn't make sense to me because Tymna Kraum is the best deck in the format. Statistically, it wins the most. So I feel like I would want to give it an S tier for that. But
Kraum is not as good as Thrasios and as good as Tymna. Like, Tymna is carrying Tymna Kraum by so much. Like, you're playing Kraum for the colors because you want to play Underworld Breach
in your blue Tymna
deck. That's why you're playing Kraum.
Okay, so yeah, normally that would be a C because it's just for colors. But Kraum he is more than just for colors. We're not playing the 3-mana thing. We're not even talking about the 3-mana one that doesn't do anything.
Right, that's true. This one, at least whenever an opponent casts a second spell that
it's
turn,
still
you
good
can
effect.
draw a
It's
card.
still that is gonna come up a lot. Yeah, okay, so I'll give it an A tier, but above Rograkh.
Above Rograkh. All right, I'll give you that. Yeah, A tier, but above Rograkh. And because there's also been a lot of times that, I know we're not really looking at the history of these commanders either, but there's been a lot of times where Kraum has been just straight up not good either.
Yeah, that's true. It only was more recently. Maybe we're still thinking of the hype of with the Mana Crypt and the Jewel Lotus where Kraum was for a few years, where Kraum sat a little bit higher.
Malcolm Keen-Eyed Navigator. Let's get some of these mono blue partners out of the way here. This was a 2 that's 2 and a blue Siren Pirate legendary creature with flying. This is going great. Whenever one or more pirates you control deals damage to your opponents, you create a treasure token for each opponent dealt damage.
This is by itself treasures in the command zone. It's a mana Tymna, right? But realistically, what this does is combo with Glenhorn Buccaneer, which we have talked about a few times.
It has an ability that for 1 in a red, you can discard a card to deal 1 damage to each opponent. And since Malcolm sees 1 damage being dealt to each opponent, you make 3 treasures. Oh, I'm sorry. His ability's loot. You get to rummage on the Glenhorn. Yeah. So then you get to draw, which is the replacement for the card that you discarded, so that now you've netted a mana as you activated that ability. You can activate the ability again, discard the card you drew to draw another one, deal 3 more damage, 1 to each of your opponents, get 3 more treasures, and then just keep the loop going that way.
You have to do a little bit of math. Sometimes your opponents have to be kind of close in life totals, because if one of them is drastically different and 2 of them die quickly, you won't have enough excess treasures to keep on going through the loop if one of your opponents dies. But as long as they are roughly close in life total, there's like an equation that you could do to figure out.
You can go for a while, because as long as you have 2, you're making the same number of treasures as you need to reactivate the ability. But like, if then someone had 40 life and the other 2 players had 10, you're not going to net enough treasures in order to take out that last player.
Exactly, yeah. So you do have to think about that sometimes, but more often than not, this deck is a quick deck and it's winning before life totals get drastically changed in that way, right?
Is this an A tier partner?
It's A or B, and I'm not really sure which one it is. I don't think it's as good as Kraum or Rograkh, and really the main thing that it offers is combo potential in the command zone.
But it's definitely better than Jeska. Like, I think it's
definitely
still
better than
an arm and a leg better than Jeska.
Yeah, because on its own, making treasures is better than killing stuff. That's the main reason, I think.
You can pair it with the red decks. You can pair it with red-black. You can pair it with white-black, like with Tymna. Like, that's also something that's still very valid.
You can pair with better stuff. Yeah, Jeska is the good stuff that you're pairing with, so you have to pair it with bad stuff.
You can pair it with Tana, and as long as like you're in red.
Yeah, I think it's an A tier. Malcolm is really good. It can win out of nowhere, and it's consistent mana, which is great.
Just worse than the other 2 A tier commanders.
Yeah.
Sakashima of 1,000 Faces is 3 and a blue for a legendary human rogue. That's a 3/1, but not really, because you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of another creature you control, except it has Sakashima's other abilities. And the legend rule doesn't apply to permanents you control.
Sakashima used to be great, I think, with Krark and Sakashima. It still is great with that particular deck. I had tried it a little bit with the Tymna deck in a while that I had a lot of fun with, but didn't end up really continuing much with, having like a second copy of Tymna, a second copy of all of your stacks pieces. I feel like Sakashima is really only good with Krark nowadays, right?
I think so too, yeah.
Just getting a second Krark is really good. The no legends rule is particularly relevant because you can play more Krarks then after that and copy your Krark.
So to me, this is probably like a D tier commander.
Interesting, really. Okay, yeah.
Because it's only getting paired with that one thing.
Yeah, but it does something. So to me, yeah, D is there just for colors, but does nothing. C is there just for, well, C and D are both there just for colors. Sakashima is there for a little bit more than just colors.
I think there's still a difference between like C and D tier, because the C tier commanders will still see play, whereas D tier commanders won't really.
Yeah.
And out outside of one deck, Sakashima is not being partnered with anything else.
Right, but it does see playing that one deck that's better than all of the C&D decks. It's on par with Jeska. I don't see Jeska at all anymore.
Oh, I think it's I guess, but like,
what's a good Jeska deck nowadays? There's
maybe
none.
we got to move Jeska, because I don't think that I wouldn't put Sakashima in B tier just because it only partners with Krark. I don't think that's a good enough reason to say this partner is great. That deck is great.
Yeah.
Sakashima sucks.
That's true. Sakashima does suck, but Sakashima is half of what that great deck is. I feel like that's got, maybe it's not.
If I was rating the partner pairings, I would be okay rating Sakashima higher. But again, Sakashima is not getting partnered with anything else that we're talking about here. It's just one deck that admittedly is a good deck. Yeah. But as a partner, Sakashima is not doing what I want in a partner. It might as well have partner with Krark.
But it's still strong. Like, that's one aspect of partner is the customization that you can do with different stuff. That's like the one aspect of it that is low. The customization doesn't work well with other commanders, but it works really well with the one commander. So I think that raises it high. Kraum also doesn't work well with any other commanders. Kraum only sees play with Tymna. So what's is Kraum a D? Not really. The one deck that it sees play with is really good.
Well, Kraum is a card advantage engine. Like, Kraum does stuff on its own.
But it only sees play in one deck.
Sakashima doesn't do anything on its own. If you cast Sakashima, you get a 3/1 with the legend rule, doesn't apply to permanents.
Isn't that
control.
semantics? Why would you play it on? You wouldn't play it like that. You'd play it with how you want to play it. You'd play it with Krark. And when it's played with Krark, it's good.
I guess.
I think it's a B. I don't know. I think it's better than Silas and Vial Smasher and Tana. I never want to play those cards.
I think that the decks that Silas is seen playing in is already better than the decks that Sakashima is seen playing in.
Yeah,
I think
Rockside
is
one of the top 5 decks in the format.
So for that reason, then I think that the highest Sakashima can go C tier then. If we're going based off how strong the one deck is.
Where it's not going off of one thing. We're trying to find one thing that we're going off of. It's a conglomeration, right?
That there's not a conglomeration with Sakashima is what I'm saying. Sakashima's only good with one deck.
Silas is only good with one deck.
And that deck is better than Tymna Krark.
Yes, that's true.
So then there's no way that Sakashima Krark could be higher than Rograkh, which means that Silas has to be higher than Sakashima.
Okay, sure. I mean, you're the one who has got the mouse at your finger. I think it's a B. I don't know. I think it's better than Jeska. And Jeska's in B tier right now.
I think Jeska has more flexibility for what you could potentially do with her. Although you're right, she's not seen play now.
You can't weigh them all individually, like because Krark and Sakashima, you said it. You're right. It only sees play with Krark and Sakashima. That is true.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. That is part of it, of like the flexibility. Like the reason why Tymna and Thrasios are both at the top is you can pair them with a bunch of different options. But Sakashima doesn't have that, so that does lower it by quite a bit. Maybe that makes it a C. But it's not there just for colors.
I think we should move Jeska anyway, because now based on this, I think you're right. I don't think Jeska should be B. I think Jeska should probably be D, because if she's like not seeing play and there's like always a better red thing to pair with her.
Is that because of a Jeska thing or is that because of a metagame thing? And does that matter? Krark is really good right now because of a meta thing. I'm seeing a lot more Krark decks because Krark can help you push through counterspells and stuff.
Everything we've been rating so far has been based on the current metagame.
Yeah.
Because like we're talking about like Kraum being good right now and like Thrasios Tymna being really good right now. And like we hit Tana because Pirates isn't good. Like Rug Pirates isn't that good right now, right?
Is there a real deck that would play Jeska right now? Not really, right? So maybe it does belong in the D, even though it just has more potential?
It has more potential. You can do things with it. But if we're rating it based on like what it brings to the table as a partner, then I understand Jeska being higher.
Yeah.
Either case, I think that Sakashima is C tier somewhere.
It's a C tier.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Where does it go in the C tier then?
I kind of want to put it here. I kind of want to put
Worse
it here.
than Silas.
Worse than Silas. Because again, Silas brings more colors to your deck. The decks that it sees play in are better than the decks that Sakashima is seeing play in. Even in the metagame right now, I would say. Like Krark is really good.
Krark is really good.
That's why. That's why. That was, I think, the biggest argument we've had on the podcast.
Yeah, you
were
really a stickler on that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's all right. I'm fine with that being a C tier. Should we talk about Krark since all of these are so relevant with Krark?
Yeah, while we're on here. Yeah. Cool. So Krark is 1 and a red for a 2/2, and he is a goblin wizard, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand, and if you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy.
Krark has gotten a lot better recently, I feel like. The ability of like double spells or no spells is kind of like fine, I think. The option to clone Krark has not been as relevant as it used to be. I'm seeing a lot more Krark Tymna decks and a lot more Krark Silas decks that don't have a Sakashima in the command zone because they've noted, probably like you, that Sakashima is like a C tier commander, and they just want to play the Krark, and either my Dark Ritual makes 6 mana or no mana, and then I'll cast it again, and then it makes 6 mana or no mana. If it makes 6 mana on that second time, then that's 2 mana to make 6 mana, and that's still really good.
A lot of the Krark Silas decks, that's kind of the direction that they want to go. But then, like, we've talked with Tyler about his Mardu Krark deck, where, like, we've gotten so many more Sakashimas that you can play in your 99 better, like your Harmonic Prodigies and your Delnies and stuff like that, where you can still get that same kind of effect and play a better commander in your command zone with Krark.
Yeah, I think Krark is a solid A tier commander right now. I truly think it's been really good.
With that.
And not even because of the Sakashima things, but like we said, but with the Tymna and the Silas stuff, I think it's just like a good way for spells-based decks to push through counter spells is by sometimes doubling them up on them.
Not in mid-range hell. I think he's probably a B, but I think you're absolutely right.
No, I'm saying right now, in mid-range hell. I think Krark is good in mid-range hell.
That's what I'm saying, too. If we're not in mid-range hell, he's probably a B.
I understand. Sorry. Yeah,
but
sure.
Because we're in mid-range hell, he's definitely A. I think he's better than Malcolm.
He's better than Malcolm. He's probably, it's hard to say with Rograkh. I don't think he's there yet.
That is really hard to say.
I think Rograkh is stronger still. But Krark is an interesting take right now that I'm curious.
I think you're right about that. Yeah. Wow. A little bit ago, we were like, wow, what's going to go in A? And now we're like, shit, what's going to go in B?
Yeah.
Maybe Kediss. Kediss isn't going to go in B.
I don't think so, yeah.
Kediss is such a stretch here. So Kediss is another one of these red commanders that's 1 and a 2. 1 and a 2. 1 and a red. 1 and a red for a 1/1 that says whenever a commander you control deals combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage to each other opponent.
I don't think Kediss is particularly good. I've seen it in a couple tournaments. I've seen it do some unique things in decks. Spreading that damage is pretty nice, but overall, that's not really what I want in most cEDH decks.
It does stuff with Malcolm. Like, you can make 3 Jeweled Lotuses every time you attack with Malcolm, which is really good. And it gives you that Glinthorn Buccaneer access, but outside of, like, catching a couple players off guard because they don't really know how much mana that you have, you're not really in a good color combination, unfortunately.
I do think it's probably weirdly better than Jeska right now. I see Kediss more than Jeska at the time, so I would say it's a D tier, but better than Jeska at the top of the D tier.
I would agree. Yeah, let's put that at the top of D tier. Yeah, that sounds good.
Should we talk about the next creature with partner?
Let's do that. This is Kamahl, Heart of Corrosa. This is 6 and 2 green for a 5/5 human druid. At the beginning of combat on your turn, creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. And for 1 end of green until end of turn, target land you control becomes a 1/1 elemental creature with vigilance, indestructible, and haste, and it's still a land.
Card's so cool. Just way too much mana.
Way too much mana.
Having that overrun as a partner ability is really cool, and I've thought about it a ton, but I think the other Abzan stuff, and I say Abzan because I think the best home for it would probably be with Tymna, or that's where I've seen it in the past.
Yeah, because it's typically been like a win-conless stacks deck where technically you do have a win-con. It's that your commander overruns your board every single turn.
But you have to be able to make so much mana, and that's just hard to do. I think I put this in the D tier. It's not quite F because I do think it does do something, and I'm interested in the card, but it's probably near the end of the D tier. It's behind Ikra.
Yeah, I was willing to go into F for it, but I think that's fair because I think you're right. It does do something at least. Like it can present a win just by being like the most threatening creature in play. So I think that's at least something. Cool. All right, let's talk about then Kodama of the East Tree. This is 4 and 2 green for a 6/6 spirit with reach, and whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield with this ability, you may put a permanent card with equal or lesser converted mana cost from your hand onto the battlefield.
Another one that we kind of lost a little bit due to the losing of Jeweled Lotus. 6 mana is just a fucking ton. But
even
this
when we
ability
had
is strong.
Jeweled Lotus, it was still hard to get going.
Yeah, it was a lot. I've seen this deck do some very busted things, but it seems like you kind of have to have the lucky start, and it's a little bit tricky to get the lucky start.
There's 3 partners that I've seen this with. The typical one has been Tymna, because you get to play stacks and like Rule of Law stacks. So like when Rule of Law meta was a thing a couple years ago, this was pretty good because you could get around it with Kodama's ability. I've seen this with Sakashima, and you play like really weird lands decks because Sakashima actually, maybe this makes Sakashima better. This deck sucks. What you do is you copy Kodama, and then you have 2 Kodamas so that every trigger gets you 2 different things, and you do things with like bounce lands to help you make like a bunch of mana. And this also pairs with Silas because weirdly enough, with like Necropotence, you can get some cracked stuff going on.
Yeah, I
don't
guess.
remember exactly what those lines are, but if you have like a ton of cards in your hand and on like your end step or cleanup step are like able to put a bunch of them into play, like it's still pretty powerful.
I would still give this one a D. I think it's in the D tier. I think it's probably somewhere between Kediss and Jeska. Is it worse than that?
I think you're right. It'll see play more than I think Jeska will. But Kediss does something unique enough to a fringe enough deck that I think it
could be worth trying out a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more powerful.
About the same, though.
Exactly. I think being 6 mana also breaks it down. But all right, we're moving back to 2-color partners here with Bruised Tarl Boorish Herder. This is 2 a red and a white for a 3/3 human ally, and when he enters or attacks, target creature you control gains double strike and lifelink until end of turn.
Nowadays, this is a solid D to me.
Yeah,
right?
really. That's probably being generous, really.
You could still play Thrasios Bruise, and I think that could be fine, but I think Tymna Thras just does that a lot better. Bruise was holding the Sans Black Thrasios decks together with Dockside Extortionist. Now, I don't really feel like there's a real reason to play Bruise.
The best thing to do in Thrasios Bruise was the Dockside loops, and that was really what you were pushing towards, and every other win con just felt so worse, and we're at a point now where if you're not going to have that push to red, why not just play another card advantage commander instead?
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because we do admit that red-white is better than red-green right now, right?
There's more
White's better than green,
red-white commanders I would want to play than white-green decks, I guess.
What I mean is that I think it's worse than Tana, but I think red-white might be better than red-green, but the things that Tana pairs with are better than the things that Bruise will pair with.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, yeah. So still C tier, above Kediss, or do you think he's D tier?
I think he's a D tier.
If he saw some play, he would be
Yeah, I think he's a firm D tier at this point.
Yeah, that's not happening, so...
I'm wondering if we should move Silas up to B tier.
I don't mind that, yeah.
Purely because Grixis Krark is really good and Grixis Rograkh is really good?
The deck is so good, yeah.
Does that make sense?
I hate that there's nothing in B, and we're coming towards the end of the list, and I'm starting to think there might be 1 or 2 other guys that we're only putting in B.
Yeah, I see maybe 2 guys that I would put in the B tier. And I think Silas, Rog Sai being so strong and Krark Silas picking up heat so much fast, which is weird because Silas sucks ass. Silas doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I feel
Blue-black commander, blue-black generic commander is good because red's good.
Part of me does want to weigh a little bit what they do too, because how good they are as a partner I think is also important if we're trying to rank them as partners.
It all goes together. It's the whole package. What they offer as a color combination, what they actually do. What Silas offers as a color combination is a 9 out of 10. What Silas does is a 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
So it's somewhere in the middle because of that, but it's still part of one of the best decks in the format, so I feel like it should be a B.
I love giving him B.
Okay.
I love
we'll
giving
move it
him
up to a B for right now.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. I'm really happy with this. Ishai is the Ojutai Dragon Speaker. This is 2 a blue and a white for a 1/1 bird monk with flying. And whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Ishai.
Yeah,
man, I used to love this commander.
So good, yeah, with Jeska. You play this card a lot. Not so much anymore.
No. The lack of card advantage with that commander pairing in particular is really what drove me away from that. Just play blue farm if you're going to do that, really.
Yeah.
You can snipe players out, but the other thing that I found is that it's really easy to snipe the wrong player,
right?
Or it's just strictly incorrect to snipe a player out of the game too. That kind of means that a lot of the things that Ishai is good for actually makes it a liability a lot of the time.
It's like Jeska. It does what it does very well. What it does is just not very good.
Exactly.
Killing one player is just not very good. I want to kill all 3 of them or none of them. For the most part, I want them alive to keep me alive when they can, right?
And there were fringe Esper builds where you would pair this with Tevish going around too, because Humility was pretty good when you could have a creature that had +1/+1 counters on it when no one else could. But even still, that's still not very strong.
I still think it's a D tier, but probably right behind Jeska because it only sees play with Jeska right now. I do see Jeska Ishai from time to time. I still think it's a deck.
Yeah. And blue-white are better colors to add to your deck than black and green,
nowadays,
right?
Yeah, definitely.
I would think so. So, yeah, I'm okay. Wow, this D tier is stacked. Is there anything that we want to move down to F tier? Kamahl doesn't see play. Should Kamahl be F?
At the top of F tier. Maybe Kamahl goes to the top of F tier.
At the top of F, yeah. Because Sidar, even though it gives you more colors, would never see play either. Yeah.
Okay. Armix?
Let's talk about Armix. So Armix is an artifact creature that's 2 and a black for a 3/2. And when Armix attacks, you can discard a card, and when you do, target creature defending player controls gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts you control in play and in the graveyard.
Once upon a time, I think it saw a little bit of play due to it just being solid removal and kind of a more creature-based meta. I don't really see it anymore ever.
It being a way to to give Kraum Grixis colors, I think, is kind of cool. It helps fuel your Underworld Breach while getting rid of like really important stacks pieces.
Yeah.
Same thing could be said with Thrasios if there's something that's preventing you from winning. Like, I kind of liked that. It made me want to play cards like Defense Grid in my Grixis deck then too, because it just like helped me up my artifact count while still being something that was really good in a color combination that was lacking that effect as well.
Yep. Another one that lost out due to Jewel Lotus. Being able to easily cast this for your Jewel Lotus was really great. I don't see Armix at all anymore. I think it's solidly an F at this point.
I think so too. Yeah, at this point. And probably lower than Sidar, but above Tormod.
Maybe higher than Sidar. It can still be in a Grixis deck.
It's got the Jeska removal thing, which is kind of nice. Like turning all of the cards in your hand or any of the cards in your hand into a piece of removal is pretty good. But the problem is like you put them in a Grixis deck and you go, oh my God, all of my cards are good.
Right.
And then I was like, I'm discarding Defense Grid because I put it in the deck because I just said it was good, but it was the worst card in the deck actually. So it was like what always got discarded. So
and also I think when the main reason why Torment is also bad and why a lot of these we're not talking about at all is the other option is much better. It's interesting that the red ones have so many options, but Tevishot is just a lot better than this one.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about Tevish then at the end.
We'll talk about Tevish later. Yeah, I want to talk about Breach's Brazen Plunderer first.
Yeah.
For some reason,
Yeah,
I guess.
Another F tier. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so this is 3 in a red for a 3/3 Goblin Pirate, and whenever one or more pirates you control deals combat damage to opponents, no, it's just regular damage. You deals damage to your opponents, exile the top card of each of those opponents' libraries. You may play those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells.
On paper, it works perfectly with the Malcolm Glenhorn combo. It feels like that deck was made for that combo. It seems like it's perfect with that. The reality is if you're going to play that deck, it's just better to play 3 colors than 2 colors a lot of the time, and it's better to have a partner that does nothing but gives more colors than a partner that does something and is less colors.
Funny how we even got like Kediss, and that's still a better thing to pair with Malcolm if you want to do this.
Which is because it's cheaper.
Just because it's cheaper and it gives you like easier advantage.
Yeah, 4 mana is a lot. A big part of me says that this commander should be better and should see more play, but the reality is that it just doesn't, and I'm wrong about that.
You have to be filled with pirates, and you have to pay 4 mana for it. So
I think it's an F tier, but worse.
It's the worst commander we've talked about so far.
You think? Yeah.
At least Tormod combos with something unless you play good tutors.
There's a 4 mana 2-card combo that Tormod has access to. That's unique.
And Breaches just makes you play bad cards in your deck, probably.
Yeah, yep.
Let's talk about a card that makes you play bad cards in your deck, but is actually cracked. This is Dargo the Shipwrecker. 6 in a red for a 7/5 legendary giant pirate. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures, and this spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you've sacrificed this turn. And he's got Trample.
Dargo is broken, and Dargo has a lot of rules that are very bendable and breakable. But the fact that you can sacrifice things as part of the cast is very unique because you're not resolving something to sacrifice those things. Those things are sacrificed. When you're casting Dargo, they are just sacrificed. There's a lot of fun things you can do with Underworld Breach. There's a lot of fun things you can do with sacrifice, and casting your 1 mana commander with a lot of mana value and being able to sacrifice it away is huge.
It is weird that he sees himself die and then goes, that counts towards my commander tax now.
Right, yeah. So normally if you can cast Dargo for 1 mana 1 time, and you continue to sacrifice him, he's 1 red mana each time, no matter what. So stuff like Burgi, stuff like Phyrexian Altar, a lot of that stuff becomes really, really insanely broken with Dargo. I think Dargo is a solid B tier, and
That's
weirdly,
exactly what I was thinking.
I think it should, in a lot of worlds, it should be higher, but it's just so bizarre that Rograkh and Krark are also so strong that it pushes Dargo down a little bit. Like, Dargo should be better, but if you're going to play a mono-red partner commander, you have weirdly better options.
I think there's other things that kind of keep Dargo down a little bit too. I think some of the card selection you have to play, like there's a couple of weird ones that are in there, and it's also really hard. Like there's a lot of math you have to do to play Dargo. The lines are really intricate too. Certain pilots will do super well with certain Dargo builds, and then other players will pick it up and go, what the fuck's going on?
Right, yeah. But you're right, it does have the issue with you playing a lot of dead cards. Not dead cards, but cards that don't do anything outside of Dargo.
Yeah, exactly.
If there's a Drannith that you can't get rid of, or something like
Altar
that.
of the Wretched,
Yeah, you have a couple bad cards, but it's still a very, very, very powerful card that breaks a lot of the rules of Magic. So yeah, solid B, but under Silas. Just because Silas is blue-black, more colors is better than a good partner a lot of the time.
Halana, Kessig Ranger, is 3 and a green for a 3/4 with reach, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2, and when you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature.
So this is kind of removal. This is really gets rid of your Protein Hulk at a weird lots of mana value rate. That's kind of the main thing that Halana has brought to cEDH that I've seen, is that it allows you to kill your own Hulk.
Yeah, you just need to have like another 6 power thing in play to kill the Hulk.
No, the Hulk can deal damage to itself by paying 2 mana, I think.
Oh, I forget about that. Yeah,
the Hulk can deal damage to itself.
The creature enters and you can still have it target itself and have it punch itself.
Realistically, the new partner, the Felithar, not the new partner, the new legendary, the new Abzan legendary we just got, Felithar, kind of makes Tymna Halana, to me, lame. Like, Tymna is still really good, so maybe not lame. Maybe Tymna is still really good. But if you want a way to kill your Hulk in your command zone, I think Felithar does it the best.
Yeah, it's spending 3 mana or like spending 3 mana and then just attacking,
right?
Versus having to spend 4 mana and then an additional 2 on top of it, no matter how you slice it.
1,000 mana. You're never gonna do that.
Just hard cast your fucker and then just sacrifice him. Then Halana
is probably a D tier. It does something,
but not enough to make it worth anything. Yeah,
like maybe, I don't know, after Jeska, somewhere after Jeska,
like above Ishai, or
I don't know. It doesn't super matter. Yeah, sure. If you think it goes there, that sounds great.
I think it is worse than Ishai, and it's probably worse than Reyhan.
Yeah, probably worse than Reyhan.
And I don't think I need to explain myself any further.
Not at all.
Great. Let's talk about Francisco then. Francisco is 1 and a black for an 0/1 bird pirate with flying, and it can't block. And whenever 1 or more pirates you control deal damage to a player, Francisco explores.
So this one is kind of a combo, part of a decent amount of combo. You have to have what do you have to have? Walking Ballista
in the graveyard, and an Agatha Soul Cauldron in play, and a non-land on top of your library.
Right.
So that way, when you activate Agatha Soul Cauldron to exile Walking Ballista, you can put a +1/+1 counter on Francisco, and then you can remove that +1/+1 counter from Francisco because Agatha Soul Cauldron gives it the Walking Ballista ability to deal a damage to an opponent, causing it to explore. And when you reveal a non-land on the top, it puts another +1/+1 counter back on Francisco, and you can repeat this loop until the table's dead.
Yeah, that's kind of all it does. I mean, that's not true. It does a couple other things. It's good with Ragavan. It's a 2-mana commander, which is nice. But realistically, it just allows you to go into another combo.
And it lets you play like a 1-card combo in your deck too in Final Parting. None of these things are great.
Yeah, but Malcolm also lets you play a 1-card combo in Glenhorn Buccaneer, and then you can also be in a Grixis deck that way.
That's true, yeah. You played this deck in a Grixis shell for a while,
I did.
Too.
I actually liked it. I think I liked it just because Grixis shell is good, and having Grixis was some things that can get you a little bit of value in the early games is just good. That deck is just going to be good, but I don't know that really makes Francisco good. There are like kind of, I would say, like strictly better versions of the deck.
I think that's fair. Yeah, exploring not being real card advantage, I think makes it tough.
But I do think that it's still weirdly like a C tier at the end of the C tier because it allows you to play a decent Grixis strategy. It's cheap. It does a lot of things that I'm interested in at a little bit of a worse rate rather than straight up nothing or only working with one commander, which is what the other C tiers do. And I think that's like close, right?
I think you're absolutely right on that. Yeah, I think bottom of C makes sense because it does unlock a lot of good doors for you. And like having access to like a win condition, like an actual combo that you can set up pretty easily on a cheap commander, I think is pretty good. But there's just a lot of extra value you can get out of other partner options that just kind of keep this a little bit lower.
Next one.
Akiri Line Slinger.
Stink.
This guy does a lot of cocaine.
Yeah.
This is a red and a white for an 0/3 core soldier ally with first strike and vigilance and gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control.
This is another Tymna blocker if you want that in your command zone for if you want to add red and white to
I
your
don't
partners.
think people have been concerned about Tymna blockers for 4 to 5 years now.
I think this is kind of the same thing as Bruise. It's a little bit cheaper, and if you're just looking to add red and white, nowadays this one's probably better. I like Bruise back in the day with Thrasios because you could Eldritch Evolution or Neoform your Bruise into a Seedborn Muse, which is really good. You can't do that with Akiri. So that was the main reason why I would be interested in playing Bruise over Akiri. And I think nowadays, if I were to play Sans Black Seedborn Muse deck, I would still want Bruise for the same reason.
Honestly, I think Akiri is an F now because of that. With Dockside Extortionist, and when you were able to build big boards of treasures and have this be like an actual combat damage thing.
I have a 10/3. Okay, sure.
That's pretty great, right? But you can't do that now. It's just like there's a strictly better red-white option for what you want these pairings to be able to do. So honestly, I think Akiri's like kind of around the Sidar Kondo era here.
Yeah, I think so too. Probably better than Sidar though.
Probably better than
Armix.
No, worse than Armix.
Yeah, Armix does something.
Armix does something. Yeah, this card does nothing. Let's talk about one more card that does nothing before we get to our last thing that does something today. Let's talk about Ardenn.
What does Ardenn do?
Nothing good. Ardenn, Intrepid Archaeologist, is 2 and a white for a 2/2 core scout, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you can attach any number of auras and equipments you control to target permanent or player.
This does 2 things in cEDH. Did you say what the whole card does?
Yeah, I got confused because it says or player, and I didn't realize that, yeah, if I want to attach more auras to me, I could, yeah.
The main thing that this does is it turns Godo Helm into an easier to assemble combo because you can play the Godo, go get the Helm, and then use the Ardenn ability to attach the Helm.
It's funny that you say that because if Godo's in your command zone, it can't get easier to assemble.
Right.
Because he's right there. But now you have to find Godo.
It makes it cheaper. It cheapens the mana so you can do it earlier.
I was just trying to be a wordplay douchebag.
Yeah, that's the main thing that it does. And also works well with Skull Clamp. You can attach your Skull Clamp to your opponent's Birds of Paradise and you still draw a card. 2 cards. That's neat.
That's a really sweet interaction. Yeah.
I haven't seen this deck much at all recently. I've seen Naya Ardenn decks in the past that win with Godo and do some Skull Clampy things.
I've seen Kraum with Ardenn as well.
Yep, for the same thing, you can win with Godo, or you're just like, you do a couple equipment things. This is one of those that, like, maybe in the future, if we get some busted equipments that this works well with, okay. But really, it's just not what a cEDH deck wants to do. It's too many hoops to jump through for not enough reward.
And yeah, you don't get to play enough good equipment to make this worth it. Like, you get to play Skull Clamp. I think you get to play Umezawa's Jite too, because if you get in for damage, like the removal on that one's actually pretty good, but like
still kind of a lot of mana. Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's 2 mana. Can we get rid of 1/1 thing or something?
It's not good enough, right? And if we're not going to get equipment that are better than Batterskull or Cauldron Complete, like we're just going to get big stats living weapon stuff instead.
Yeah, it allows you to have a 6 mana 1 card win condition in your red-white based deck in Godo. Well, not 6 though, because 3 to cast your commander and then 6 to cast your Godo, and then the equip is free. So really 9.
You save 2 mana in the long run, I guess.
Save 2 mana in the long run. Yeah. So that's an F, but I think it's near the high end. Maybe it's better than the red-white one. But under Armix, maybe better than Armix. I don't know.
Oh man, I think it's worse than Armix. I think my only other argument against it is that if you are trying to do Ardenn, you're like really shooting yourself in the foot more than a lot of these other partners is going to kind of force you to.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's definitely an F tier. It's a lot more an F tier than I thought that there would be. One last partner that we're going to talk about today, and it's the last of our Planeswalker partners.
And the last of our partners, and the last of our cards.
Tevesh Szat, Doom of Fools. This is 4 and a black for a 4 loyalty Szat Planeswalker, and you can +2 to put 2/0/1 black Thrall creature tokens into play. You can +1 to sacrifice another creature or planeswalker, and if you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander, and you can -10 him to gain control of all commanders and put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. This card taught me that there's one singular command zone that all commanders share.
Oh, they're all in the command zone, not their owner's command zones.
Put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield. Yeah.
That's weird.
Interesting.
Tevesh is interesting, is a great way to put it. It's unique. 5 mana, it draws a lot of cards. That's kind of the main thing that it's going to be doing is you can sacrifice your Rograkh that you pair with, or sacrifice some other creature that you just have laying around, or the 0/1s that it makes. Getting this out on turn 1 and then turn 2, plussing it up even again because both of its abilities are pluses to draw cards is pretty huge. I have found that you become an attack target if there's another Kraum at the table or another, someone who's looking who has free attacks. They're going to end up attacking you because that ultimate is so busted. But the card advantage with Tevesh Szat is pretty huge, and Kraum Tevesh is like a real deck that does see play and does okay.
Yeah, Kraum Tevesh, Thrasios Tevesh, like it makes cards like Calling the Weak be like way better in your deck. Yeah. You get to play that in scenarios where you don't really get to before.
And another great Skull Clamp card, if you can clamp the 0/1s that it makes and continue to plus making more of the throws while using the Skull Clamp to draw 2 cards each of them, that's pretty insane. This one's, I don't know, is this a C or a, I don't think it's a B.
Oh, I was going to put him in B.
You think it's a B?
Like the bottom of B, like above Sakashima.
It's definitely around Sakashima. Well, so it's interesting because I think Krark and Sakashima is a better, that's not true. Is that true? Is Krark and Sakashima better than Kraum Tevesh? I don't think that's true. I think Kraum Tevesh is better. Yeah, I think it's a solid B. But it's behind Dargo. It's not as broken as Dargo.
Oh, it's definitely behind Dargo. Yeah, and I would have moved before the bans. It definitely would have been up higher on this list.
Way
I think.
higher.
Yeah, like probably even A tier.
Yeah, but it has still remained powerful even with the bans because what it does is just so much.
It's
so much
still
good
strong.
Stuff.
Yeah, it's less popular, but I think it's still really strong.
It just draws you kind of a bunch of cards, 2 to 3 cards every turn, every other turn, or every turn is really good. And the threatening ultimate is so insane that everyone has to pay attention to it. And then you do get a bit of a distraction. Look over here at my Tevesh slot while I'm compiling a handful of cards.
That's true. Like,
okay,
if you're
you killed my Tevesh slot, time to ad nauseam now or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
right. If you're in the Grixis version, like you can play with your life total a little bit more because they're too afraid of Tevesh in that case.
Right. And it's nice to just say, okay, you're not attacking me. I'm still at 35 and we're on turn 6 and you killed my Tevesh slot. That's great. I still have 35 life, so I can necro for a bunch still on turn 6. Like, it kind of does the life linking thing that we wanted from Ikra and from Bruise, except rather than gaining you the life, it just prevents the damage by being able to block and take the damage itself.
While drawing you cards on top of it
as
all.
you go through of it. So yeah, Tevesh is great. And I would agree, solid B commander.
Solid B. That sounds good. Well, the list has been on screen this whole fucking time, but take another good look at it because this is how we're ranking them. I think so too, yeah. I think there's a lot worse partners out there than I thought that there were. I thought we would... thought there'd be a couple of better ones and a couple more higher rankings here. But
there's really only, like, I would say 10 of these partners are good. Like, the first 2 are obviously great. Tymna and Thrasios are busted.
I think you were right to only put those 2 in S tier.
Yeah,
I think
those
I
are the
think you were
best
right
of the best,
about
I think,
that.
right? Yeah. Because they are both in several tier 1 decks.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, the other ones like might only appear in one.
In one, but it's still like a tier 1 or tier 2 deck, I think, as all the A tier.
Exactly.
The tier B is they're doing something that's powerful. Silas is very important colors. Dargo is broken. Tevesh draws a ton of cards.
It's like depending on who you pair them with, they can be like really busted and like do some awesome stuff.
And then the C tier are all commanders that can see play mainly for their colors or because they do one thing in a unique way.
They have to be paired up with another commander in particular, but they can be super strong with that other partner in particular.
And then D and F, all the D ones, like you could play, they're very fringy, but I don't see them a ton anymore. And then F, I don't see at all.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah, these are the partners in cEDH. Love it.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Thanks so much for watching or listening. If you want to support us directly, you can do so on Patreon, like our $100 patrons.
Eli the Magic Guy, David Newman, Pat Fire, Spengler, Demetrius Clark, Larceny Roars, Your Boy Blue, Sparky B, Zunon, Insomnia, SC Phillip, Olden Groupie, Gecko21, Caleb Ritchie, Zach Hartley, Reactive, Sean in the Ice, Gare Bear Garrett, Luke Cook, Joshua Day, Demon of Rosgreaves, Peter Stewart, Cornell Wild, Uncle Butts, Nick Foles Go to 9, Quadja Hamid, Lauren Connell, Scott Hawk, and Baby G-Bus.
If you want to pick up any of our merch, you can do that at playtowinmtg.com.
Thank you, Dragon Shield, for supporting the show. Use code PLAYTOWIN5 at our affiliate link down below for 5% off.
Follow us on social media for more content.
Thank you so much for watching.
See you next time.
Deadbeat Scott, Lil Sad Loner, Sarcastic, Roy Turner, Bill Bob, Mystic Muffin Man, Zachary Coulson, Jabaha, Mace the Ace, Dalton Poteet, Justin Mansolo, Jan Wildfang, Thomas Bueno, and David Nelson.